Welcome to our Cybertalks interview series. I'm Wyatt Cash on behalf of CyberScoop, and I'm here with Meghan Good, Vice President, Cyber Solutions Lead at the Intelligence Group at Leidos. Meghan, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, let me start by asking, there's been a lot thrown at CISOs in 2020. How has 2020 changed the role of Chief Information Security Officers from your point of view?
So from my point of view, the CISO role is all about managing risk and doing it effectively, right? So thinking about the organization's data, their capabilities, devices, and networks, and managing it within a particular cost. I think 2020 certainly has had impacts on those risk calculations and perhaps triggered new efforts and mitigations. But I really think the role itself is as critical as it was before, and if not more so. Now the CISO really is managing maybe even a different set of priorities. Prioritizing more work from home with a different volume of data and traffic and locations at different times, and then also trying to protect the health information that might be going across their networks that probably wasn't there before or might not have been, and then making sure that their own teams are okay and that they're staying healthy despite having to work in a pandemic situation. So that's on top of all of those other existing efforts that they probably were working to modernize and to harden and operate really complex environments. It's a very critical role, and I think this year has changed a lot, but I think that role is as critical as it was before.
I know a lot of folks would agree with you. Next, let me ask a little bit about the distributed workforces. Workforces are now so much more spread out than they were months ago. What has that taught security leaders when it comes to implementing security policies for their organizations and some of the things that they've had to change in recent months?
Right. I think the two big lessons and the big words have been resilience and agility. I would say for security leaders, it's resilience in the sense that our systems are operating in ways that we might not have considered that they ever would. It's a non-normal time that's becoming the new normal, right? And it's done in unintended ways than what we probably would have planned out if we had the time and effort to plan it. And really, that's a foundation of good systems engineering, that things would work in ways that you wouldn't anticipate. But this event proves that it's really at all levels. It's all kinds of systems. It's all kinds of devices. It could be from your complex enterprise network to a hybrid environment and down to those individual systems and devices and your policies. They all have to be implemented in a way that balances security with usability by lots of users and availability. And that's really been the critical challenge that I think security leaders have been going after for a long time and trying to conquer. But this event makes it really clear that that is one of those things that we're forced to do as our workforce is more flexible, and we want to make sure that their efforts are still secure and maintain integrity of the critical missions that they're working.
Next, I'd like to ask about emerging technologies and supply chain concerns. IoT and 5G technologies continue to come online in the United States, and that obviously means, more tech being brought in-house to handle those improvements. So with those improvements, obviously come, security and supply chain concerns. How should industry and government and just enterprises in general collectively handle those concerns while still trying to make sure that we don't fall behind with this emerging technology?
Well, I think it's very important that we manage those supply chain risks, like we do in what we were talking about with cybersecurity. We identify vulnerabilities and threats, we develop ways to make them better or more secure, and we prepare and adapt these mitigations as we need to. And I think it's really important that as we make these discoveries that we share information, and that we aim to build in a more managed supply chain from the beginning as we're looking to bring in these other technologies. But really, the challenge of that situation is all in the complexity, right? There's a near infinite number of components and subcomponents, and there's so many different ways and places that they're produced and then packaged and handled and stored and transported. And they're actually being disposed of, which is another end of the supply chain that I don't think we think about as much. But there's a lot of moving parts, and I think the situation really lies in a very collective approach and following a systematic process and really managing that risk. I think we're going to see it evolve so much over the coming years. I think 5G has its own set of regulations which might help us with managing the risk, but then with IoT, I mean, there's really no governing look at it, and so it is on industry and governments of how we're going to come together to really solve and manage this challenge.
And lastly, I'd like to ask, as cyber threats continue to grow in sophistication and organizations face a persistent challenge in recruiting the skilled cybersecurity professionals that they need to protect their systems, right? How do we close those gaps that exist in the nation's current cybersecurity field in general and within the education and training landscape in particular?
Right. I really must say a lot of progress has been made to get talented folks interested in cybersecurity, and we've seen a lot of change over the last decade. I mean, there's so many more programs out there that are the degree-based programs with universities and colleges, and then the training programs that are offered here, there, and everywhere about different cybersecurity-related topics. I think we work really closely with academia to make sure that real-world challenges and problems are included, and so that the students are getting a view of that before entering the workforce. But I think there has been so much so far. The NICE framework in particular and its associated tools have helped us to clarify those job roles across industry and government, which I think helps people figure out that this is a career field, this is a path, this isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of job, and with that they can adapt some of their skills, supplement with interesting training, and make this the career that they want. For us in particular, the way that we're looking at it is really assessing our workforce and helping folks to see where are their strengths and where are the areas they want to build on. And we're looking for aptitude for a lot of the different skills and abilities versus that specific training and certification that might really not be the right fit for that person and that team. So once we have that assessment, we're really looking at the experiential learning that we can add in to put a focus on experience. It's a lot about on-the-job mentoring, about shadowing, about rotations with different teams, so you learn a different perspective. And then it's also a lot about those simulated training events. For us, we use our own range situation of where we have captured the flags, and we can start to see if someone in a safe environment can, try what looks like something real and take on a complex challenge with a team and maybe fail a little bit and learn more from it, and gain something out of the experience. And the outcome of all of that is so that our team is more prepared to handle challenges that pop up and evolve in our own environment and those of our customers. So I certainly think there's gaps to be had out there. We need more people as much as we need more technology in this space. And for us, it's really about how do we meet people where they are and take them into the careers they really want around cybersecurity.
Well, Meghan Good, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us and for joining us today at Cybertalks. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Wyatt.